welcome back now. The Daily Graphic starts this morning and says police youth clash at Asanmama, leaving 2 dead. That's in the Etua district of the Eastern region. Also on the front page of the Daily Graphic, my record in fight against corruption and paralleled. Prez Mahama is said to have said that. And then be wary of half-truth about election process. EC boss is talking. And the news about the death of the Asantehima confirmed by the Daily Graphic. All those stories on the front page. The General Telegraph says 51 million judgment debt saga. Supreme Court ruling regrettable. That's attributed to the Deputy Attorney General. His photograph is here. Daily Guide. Woyeme 4 million CD check cooked, says Martin Amidu. That story has a front page cover on the Daily Guide. The Daily Statesman says, vote out Mahama or forget 51 million CD Woyeme loot, Martin Amidu tells Ghanaians. And infrastructure for corruption, NDC blows 223 million on 93-kilometer cocoa roads, all awarded through sole sourcing. Daily Statesman. The Ghanaian Times says, soldiers warned, don't get involved in political violence. IGP charges is meant to be resolute, and Attorney General has done a phenomenal job. President Mahama is reported again to have said that. And then the Weekend Finder said, Woyeme Amidu clash, show it live on TV. Chief Justice petitioned, and we're told, I think it's a survey or a story here, vigilante groups, Wahala, NDC 66%, NPP 18%. And these are stories on the Finder. To help me do the talking this morning, to my right is the NPP Member of Parliament for, or aspiring Member of Parliament for the Lojokuku constituency in the Greater Accra region, Dr. Okoboy. Good morning, and I hope you're doing great.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks so much for joining us. And then to my left is a lecturer at the Central University College, Mr. Kwame Appa. Good morning, too.
Morning.
And I hope you're doing good, too.
Good.
Thanks so much for joining us. Right, so let's start this morning looking at the Daily Graphic, some great stories here. The story captured on page 16 says President Mahama is saying that his record against corruption, or his fight against corruption, is unparalleled. Just a quick look at that story. Now, President Mahama has touted his achievement in government as far as his fight against corruption is concerned. When he was speaking at the evening encounter at GBC, the president denied suggestions that he had failed to deal with public officials accused of corruption. Now, he said he would have arrested and detained alleged corrupt public officials if Ghana were in a military or dictatorial era, but indicated that the country's constitutional rule will not allow him to act arbitrarily. Again, he said that some monies that were stolen by public officials is been collected, and he goes on to say that he will go ahead to take public officials who engage in corrupt act on, and he cites a few cases that are in court as the reasons. Now, he again said that the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice has recovered 40 million from officers implicated in the malfeasance of the National Service Secretariat 3 years ago. He goes on and on and on and on about corruption. He says his achievements are unparalleled. Mr. Appa, let me start with you. That's the president talking. He said he's done enough in the fight against corruption. How do you see it?
Good morning, and good morning to our cherished viewer out there. You know, we measure fight against corruption based on the actions taken.
Right.
President Mahama is telling us that the Attorney General has been able to collect some debt, some money.
Some money. Stolen monies.
The question is that the way out? That somebody steals. That is the point. The person steals. And I think the president mentioned the word stealing. I mean, if somebody steals, even in our situation where somebody steals a bunch of plantain, we've seen court putting them in jail for 2 years, up to 3 months, 6 months. So it's a question about steal the money, and we'll come back and take the money back. And even in that situation, how do we progressively do that? We are being told by the president as to whether that is the reality is another thing we have to look at. So the fact is, we are not measuring the fact that somebody has fought corruption because he's collected some money stolen, not all, some money stolen from some quarters. That is not the issue. Fighting corruption. If you read IMF's policies and even Transparency International strategies in dealing with corruption, the first thing is stop impunity. And how do we stop impunity in dealing with corruption? You don't just get up and say, Nana, you stole 5,000. Do well to return the 5,000. And Nana can even decide that, okay, I'll pay the 5,000, but I'll pay it in such ABC installments. And then we agree to the person paying by such installments. And even not all the monies are recovered yet. Some of them have been recovered. And we believe it was stolen. It's a state money. Not this law on causing financial loss to the state. Why was it promulgated? Why is it there? I remember when Mr. Pepra and other people were sentenced, the judge said it clearly that though you might not have benefited from the money that was missing to the state, your complicity in the issue, you were the head and you allowed it to be, and that's why you're being sent to prison. So it doesn't matter whether the person, according to the law, it doesn't matter whether the person really used the money on his own or he didn't. But this, we all accept that those monies were stolen. Stolen, that's the word. And we say we've been able to collect 40 million out of those money stolen, and then nothing is being done. Nobody is being impugned for the wrong he did. Then, Nana, let's all begin to go into it. When you get access to public funds, just dip your hand in there, pick it up, because one day, if you go into with a settlement strategy that I'm going to pay back by this ABCD, then all of us can pay back and sit and be free. Unless these things work, then the president, your record on corruption fighting, I would say, from your own admission, it's an indictment.
Let me go to Dr. Okoboy. I'll come back to you again. But Dr. Okoboy, the president says that he thinks his record is unparalleled, and he cites the AG retrieving some money. He cites some of his officers who are in court over corrupt practices. What does it suggest? He's doing well in the fight against corruption?
Yeah, first of all, let me say a very good morning to all our viewers, especially to my constituents, those watching from Lejikuku. You know what? In this election, one of the major issues that is going to determine how people vote is the issue of corruption. Why am I saying that? It's corruption because we've had a lot of resources as a country. We've even had addition of oil since the 8 years of this new John Mahama Atamil's administration. And yet, some of the things that even Ghanaians were enjoying have been taken from them. When you look at the nursing allowances, some teacher trainees that were enjoying, all these things were paid. Of oil, don't have the money. Why? Now, that's where corruption comes in. Where the monies that we have as a state are being in the wells of Martin Amidu looted. Now, President Mahama says he's fighting corruption because you have cases like, you have people like, what's the name? The gentleman from Abu Kapele in court. But ask yourself, how did Abu Kapele land in court? It was the work of Manasseh. It was a journalist who did his investigative piece and found out that through the JIDA scheme, close to 1 billion Ghana cedis had been doled out to people who were sympathetic towards the NDC.
But it's the government who is prosecuting Abu Kapele. It's not Manasseh.
That's what I'm saying, the exposure.
All right.
And you know, the Abu Kapele prosecution, the government had no option than to prosecute because the clarion call, the noise, the disaffection from the public was so huge and overwhelming. So sometimes as a government, you are forced to do some things, not because you want to. A classical example is the Woyomi case, where initially, let's look at the short history of the Woyomi case. When the case came out from the Auditor General's report, we had government functionaries who came out to defend that he had a case, and that it was even rather the previous administration that was culpable and that was liable for allowing such a mess to be caused. And it took a lot of, diligent work by Ghanaians to realize that no, this gentleman even did not have a contract. Now, look at the trend of events. When the call became so loud, they went like, okay, now we admit that he was wrongly paid. He defrauded us as a state. Now, who were the people who were in charge when the fraud happened? Someone like Martin Udru, what happened to him? With the supervision and blessing of the president, he was made the first speaker in parliament. You have the perpetrators of the scheme getting promoted along the line. And remember, it's not surprising. The president himself was the head of the economic management team when all these monies were paid as vice president. So look at what is happening. Like Martin Amidu said, they just are not in the position. They are not willing to get the money back. And you know,
you think the AG has not made efforts because we know of the effort the AG has made?
The AG first was in court to prosecute, to ensure criminal prosecution. And that was not going to give us the money back. And Amidu, as someone who wanted Ghanaians to get our money back so we can progress as a nation, went to the Supreme Court through the civil route. And the court, when he went to court, the AG was in opposition.
Right.
Exactly. So the Attorney General, most of the time, has been an adversary in court on the side of the Woyome, if I may put it, whilst Martin Amidu is on the side of the state. And the recent ruling should even tell you more that, like Amidu said, the president and his Attorney General, his team, are not willing to get the money for us. It will only take a change in government to retrieve the money. Why? The Attorney General filed a case to get the money for us, and it was even under pressure from Occupy Ghana, who told them that, look, go to court and get the money for us. Only for the Attorney General to discontinue the case and tell us that, Woyome had committed to paying. And I have an interesting revelation here. The Attorney General withdrew the case on the 26th of October. Yet it was on 27th of October that the letter came from Woyome's lawyers. So there is some level of collusion.
We're told that the Attorney General would do the case with the liberty to come back.
No, you see, all these
because they have argued against the fact that the AG has totally withdrawn the case from court.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that the withdrawal took place, the filing,
26th.
Yes, on 26th. Yet the letter of commitment to pay came from Women's Lawyers on the 27th. Now, you know what? I think it's so clear, the government, the Attorney General Department, they've been very lethargic when it comes to getting the money. It always takes a push from somebody to get them to go to court. And Woyome said something very interesting, that even the so-called check, the alleged check which was signed by Woyome, they said 4 million Ghana cedis, was drawn by Woyome in favor of Iyoko. When Iyoko is not party to the dealings in court, they could have drawn it in favor of Ministry of Finance, Bank of Ghana. We have places where you give money to the state. So Woyome is saying that, look, from all their actions, they even appear to be lost when it comes to the process because they just are not willing. And let me end by saying this. When, for Christ's sake, when you have a president of a nation who calls a contractor in Burkina to thank him for a Ford gift and still insists it was not a bribe or it was not something to...
Shraj says it's not.
No, but Shraj mentioned that he broke his own gift code.
Right.
And the gift code was put in place by President Mahama so as to prevent public officials from the likelihood of what, going corrupt or being compromised. So if you broke your own code, and remember, Shraj says something very, very instructive, that it is because they don't have provisions for what should be done to you if you break the gift code. That is why they just ended at he having broken the gift code. By implication, if there was a punishment by the rule of the gift code,
of course, a code of conduct,
they would have implemented it. And this business of, there was no law broken, as a leader, you don't always have to break a law. There are also questions about morality and due process.
Let me ask you this: President Mahama, if he's doing comparison and says that, well, unlike some leaders, that's the daily graphic story. Unlike some former leaders who indicated that they would not expose corruption to bring their government down, he had taken the bold decision to expose corruption. How do you reconcile the two statements?
You see, this is born out of the statement they claim President Kufuor made, that corruption is since Adam, and that you should bring evidence. When President Mills, may his soul rest in peace, became president, there were a lot of shouts about corruption and that. What did he say? He said, when you get me the evidence, I'll be able to do something about it. So sometimes when you're in opposition, you can make noise that prosecute them. President Mahama in one breath is saying that he can't jail people unless given evidence. And at the same time referring to President Kufuor when he says
he can't throw them to jail because the court processes are there.
And please, let's get this right. This issue of exposure, they are throwing like most of the major scandals which have happened in this country were not led, initiated, and exposed by this government. They were done by private citizens who wanted to protect the public purse. Look, Amidu, let's remember that this gentleman is at home, unemployed, whilst his government is in power, because he was somebody who was fighting for corruption. And he's been vindicated in the courts. His actions have shown that he really is interested in getting the money for us. And look at those who are in power. Look, I always mention this gentleman, and people have forgotten. I respect him a lot. Segbefia. Segbefia was one of the key people who sat on TV and said that Woyome deserves the 51 million Ghana cedis. Defended him strongly. Today he's in office, and the gentleman who's been proven to be right is at home. The mere fact that Amidu is at home, unemployed, and can't work with President Mahama, has not been allowed to work with him, it's a strong signal to you that our president is really not in the fight for corruption.
I'm grateful, Dr. Kobo. Mr. Paul, so if President Mahama is doing a comparison and says that, well, he is exposing corruption compared to other leaders who say that if I expose corruption, it will bring my government down. And so he does that comparison and says, I have done better. Will you begrudge him?
That is a very nice statement. And that would have been the best option in a state. And any citizen in Ghana would have loved to know. The headache here is, when it comes to corruption, we all, in a way, are corrupt. We all. And human beings are like, excuse me, goats. We always have to be changed around a little bit to sit up. When you allow the human being to operate the way he or she wants to operate, I tell you, you give room for these things to happen. So it would have been the best way to say, I'm exposing corruption. The exposition of corruption, where has it got to? When you expose, work on it. So for instance, if you have exposed by your own exposition, and as Doc said, this issue about Abu Gapele in court was an exposition of the media that then brought to the fore the issue of let's go to court.
That's our job.
And even the question is, looking at the issues critically, looking at the issues to do with this Abu Gapele in court now, is he the only person who should be in court? Apart from the RLG's issues, apart from all those things that came alongside the JIDA issues, is he the only person to be in court? What is his issue in court now? His issue in court is that because he did some deal with somebody, the SADA and something happened. Who were then SADA people then? We've read over and over how SADA people have plunged, looted, brought SADA to its knees. And today, the gentleman taking over is now crying because the fact is, now the money is no more going to SADA. The monies that they thought should be there are no more there. So if you listen to the CEO now, he's struggling. He is fighting it out to get money to do something. When people have sat there, and you see, I'm still looking at the law of causing financial loss. It wasn't just put there because it just wanted to be put there. It was put there and Parliament did it and it became a law. And if you're going to take it one by one of the issues that have come so far with corruption, the supposed alleged corruption, then some people shouldn't have been sitting at home and enjoying as they're enjoying today. Some people should have been in the courtroom, or even by now the court would have ruled. Sometimes look at this Abu Gapele issue. How long has it traveled?
But that's how the court system.
Yes, the court system is like that. But the fact is, recently a judge was very mad at the Attorney General for their disappearances and appearances in court. Yeah. The question is there any commitment?
Is that a fault of government?
No, it's not. Attorney General is the government. He is in government. Attorney General is the legal man, the legal person of the government and for the state. But sometimes the issues are like they're not interested in. Look, when these issues came up with Waterville, Isophoton, and then this Woyomi issue, we had government officials defending the issues left, right, center. What was it? Now, if it got to a point where we see that, we mistakenly defended what we shouldn't have defended, I thought that the best thing was to have come back, reverse the issue and said, we were mistaken. Every human being commits it. It's a mistake. We all do it. Come back. We made a mistake. But this time around, let's fight it and let's get everything right. This Woyomi issue that was raised right now is, why did Attorney General go to court and review the issue? When you said the man brought a letter and said, I wanted us to sit and then
talk about the
settlement. The question is, why couldn't you have adjourned the matter? Court, adjourn this matter.
Well, we're told that that's according to the NDC's legal team. She's out of court, but with liberty to go back.
Fine.
So it's not a total withdrawal. That's
fine. So you see what Martin Amidu then went behind you to do, indicts everything. That brings everything to the fact that you were not interested.
And the mentioning of the NDC legal team just reminds me of something Martin Amidu said. He said when he was the AG, people who were so-called NDC legal team members were actually fronting for individuals and companies that were coming to demand money from the state. Get the
that's an allegation.
Let me come in. I thank you very much for this NDC
that.
legal team. Are we talking about the party or government? Exactly. When we're able to dissect the two, there's a problem. The legal team says somewhere for the party. Let them do their party thing. This is government. This is me. This is you. This is all of us seated here and everybody here. And Ghanaians. This is Ghana. So when the Attorney General was put there, though he was appointed by a political head, he was not there to work for the political. He was there to work for the nation Ghana. So when it then turns out to become a party matter and the individual matter, then Nana, we are in trouble.
Nana, let me just
let's wrap up on this one.
Right. Yeah. You know, Abu Kapele, this is where I always talk about the judgment of the president. Sometimes, you know, President Mahama says something that I can't put people in jail. No, you don't have to put people in jail to be seen to be fighting corruption. Some of your decisions are enough. Let's take one decision. Abu Kapele contested for the primaries within his constituency on the ticket of the NDC. The question is that if you as a government are in court prosecuting this gentleman for making us lose huge monies, how can you, as a leader of the NDC, President Mahama, allow him to even contest at their primaries? He was not fit to contest for primaries as long as he was being prosecuted in court. Yet he was allowed. That should tell you that the prosecution is not out of their own volition.
So President Mahama should have stopped him.
No, but that was possible. He's the leader of the NDC. This is a gentleman that you have asked your AG to prosecute in court. And the same gentleman is in your party. If he had won the primaries, you know he would have been going to, if he should he win, he will be in parliament. That is the confusion. Where elements.
But Dr. Okoboy, if someone has not been pronounced guilty,
but you see,
I mean, do you go ahead and say that he can't contest when the court
look at the logic. Look at the logic. You are the head of an organization. You have taken one of your employees to court for having misbehaved when it comes to handling finances. Then you are the same person allowing that employee to contest for head of department. You see the confusion.
It's a moral matter.
I'm not saying it because as long as the court has said the person is guilty, if you do that, you will be seen to have judged the person before the court
the problem
makes a ruling.
We always talk about legalities. Sometimes as a leader, you have to look at the moral issue. If a gentleman known by all the staff is known to have done something which the institution, you know, sometimes you can be dealt with by organization, not having broken national laws, but even within the ethics of the organization internally. So the NDC themselves have agreed that the AG should prosecute Abu Kapele, which means that they suspect there's some wrong.
Right.
I'm not saying that is legal, but as a way of checking corruption, why do we talk about decisions? You know, when what's the name? When former Minister of Transport under President Kufuor, Anani,
Richard Anani,
when his appointment was put on hold and then reinstated, although Church said he had done nothing wrong, there were people in the NDC said that if this gentleman had been involved in all this, as a matter of morality and leadership, had to show that you are really in to fight against corruption, President Kufuor shouldn't have reinstated him. So sometimes it's not about the legal issue; it's about the moral issue. And let me also
show the sign that you abhor the practice.
Exactly. And then let me give you this issue also, which talks about the judgment of the president. You know, Marita Brew, the AG, when she was appointed, there were people in this country said that there is a problem here. There's a problem with judgment. There might be a potential conflict of interest situation. Lita Brew is the law firm that handled the cases of Woyome and what's the name?
Isophoton and
the rest. Now, these were the lawyers who led Woyome to go and take money from the state even when he had no contract. And so when he was being appointed, Brew was being appointed, people said, what is happening? It is possible that one day we'll be pursuing this gentleman for our monies. And you who headed their case are the same person being the Attorney General for the state. And now you see the things we are experiencing in courts now, where now we have a private citizen for the first time in the history of the country pleading with the court to be allowed to orally examine with the purpose of getting the money back. Why have we gotten here? We've gotten here because we have an AG appointed by president who finds himself in a difficult situation, being the lead counsel for somebody he's supposed to pursue now. These are very instructive things we have to talk about.
Well, the president of the AG is already resorting to retrieving the money. We'll add that one on there. But let's stay on Daily Graphic this morning. The worry of hard truth about election process. EC boss is said to have said that at one of the meetings, it says that the chairperson of the commission, Madam Charlotte, has advised the public to be wary of hard truth and rumors being presented as facts in social media and some traditional media outlets because of people's parochial interest. Now, according to her, the media, especially social media, on a daily basis, peddled false news, leaving out the fact because of their parochial interest. She goes on and on and on and blamed the media, particularly social media, for the phenomenon of peddling half-truth, and wondered how the country could achieve a credible election when that practice persisted on daily basis. She goes on and talks about how she thinks that even social media and traditional media are fueling intemperate language and all that. And she said she's saddened by it. Is the chairperson of the commission right on this when she talks about that social media peddling half-truth?
That is right. That is right. But there's a BUT. It's right. And it's right because people nowadays can sit anywhere and put anything out there. I remember a social media, a text was sent through a social media system that the GES is stopping Christian organizations to have meetings in the universities and blah, 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 blah. And somebody texts back on some platform and started cursing people in the air, whether he was cursing the stars or the moon, we didn't know. And I sent them and I said, if you were a little bit not so ignorant, you would have known that GS has no power over universities. Their tenure ends with the GSS and SHS. That's what they can go. So even stop that. It doesn't come in. You know, my BUT is from, once we've identified that the social media is one place people are using intemperate languages, creating fear, rumor mongerings, and all those kind of things, what do we do with it? As an institution,
how do we deal with it?
What do we do? Not dealing. What do we do with that social media? The same social media being used to peddle falsehood, rumors, and making things look like they weren't there. What do we as an institution do with that social media? Go onto the social media. Can you imagine if EC, having all the records they have, create a platform on WhatsApp? And then every day, every morning, every time now and then, information about what they know is the truth is churned out to the people. Yes, others will go against and do other things, but then the fact is, it will minimize. Because then when this comes, oh, I've read somewhere that no, it wasn't so. I've read somewhere that it was, oh, I just read it from EC side. Are we also using it to our advantage? Yes, people will use it to create mischief. People will use it to create fear and whatever it is. But when we are on it, we will then peddle the truth. And when we peddle the truth, it can at least counter most of the untruth being peddled. Let me give you an example in 2012. I was somewhere in one of the regions in Ghana here during the election, doing some monitoring hearing. And then on live media, on live radio.
Traditional media.
Traditional.
Right.
And somebody would call and say, there's a fight. I mean, giddy pa, you know, there's poetry. Giddy pa, then the police, as usual, blaring their sirens and everything, gets there. They say, we here, nothing has happened here. I mean, we are coolly in our lane, in our queue, doing our thing. So it got to a point the police needed to then go to the radio stations and then be warning as to the people calling and making all this mischief and other things. They sent the police on some wild chase here and there without anything. So even on traditional media, it can happen.
Right.
The only way it was counted was the police were quick enough to then identify that. Then let's send people to the radio stations and begin to place the warning and the caution here, so that if anybody does so and we're able to track you with the number, we would come against you. And that stopped, that minimized the thing from between 11 going, then we saw that thing has minimized. Until that thing is done, you don't sit at home and say, you're worried. Yes, you'll be worried. But the fact is, what do you do to counter or to give a measure to what other people are not doing right? And if you see that complaining, the social media will continuously, and I thank God he said the social media especially, the social media would continuously give all those rumors, mongerings, lies, and everything, creating fear and panic. But you get onto it and then try to divert, counter that thing, and try to do something.
So for you, the idea of shutting it down,
it won't work.
Isn't also
I mean, it cannot work.
A solution.
It cannot work. It's like this issue to do with the website where tv3news.com, and if TV3 is not that very alert enough, somebody can go and buy something like 3news.org. And then before we know, somewhere in Afghanistan, they started a site like this, and with the same colors and everything, trying to perpetuate something which is not from TV3. So it's something you cannot stop. You can stop it in Ghana. What about people outside Ghana? What are you going to do? And so that cannot be stopped. So the shutting down will not work. The only way is find a way to counter what may be so false and what may be so bad, so people can know that this is the truth.
Dr. Koboy, so Madam Charlotte's concern, particularly about social media, and also the fact that traditional media sometimes put up half-truths. And so Mr. Appel's concern is that we should find a way to do something to counter. How do we deal with it?
You know what? First of all, the demeanor, the orientation of the Electoral Commission, to some extent, has fueled some of these criticisms, attacks, and some of the publications that are put on social media.
How do you mean?
Whether true or false. Now, let me say that I like this adage. When those drumming change the rhythm, the dancers also change their dance. You know, this is coming on the heels of this Pink Sheets report that came out that, I mean, one of the parties, I think NPP, our reps went to the center printing aero vote and realized that some of the Pink Sheets didn't have serial numbers. Now, and PNC, other parties have called for an emergency IPAC meeting to discuss some of these matters. My brother, let's do a small history. We have an electoral commission that has been to court for a few occasions in the recent past, and most of the rulings have come against the commission. The rulings have been against the commission in favor of those who took the commission court. Before the parties went to court, the assumption was made by the electoral commission. They made statements that they were in the right. They knew what they were doing. But the courts showed that they are not perfect. There are times when their actions could be deficient. Now, why am I saying this? People, some of the public, some section of the public are beginning to be a little bit hostile towards the commission because of some of this history. And you know what, Nana? Even in America recently, the elections that they had, Facebook realized that there were some false publications that came that were pro-Donald Trump, which did not come from any official source, but were put out by people to try to get votes for him. All I'm trying to say is that social media will not be perfect. There are some who will be responsible on social media. There are sources that are responsible and trusted. Your source is a trusted source. Let's say tv3.com/news.
3news.com.
Exactly.
Right.
So it is for the Ghanaian to know where to filter information. We are in an information age. Even when you go to Google, there's so much stuff you don't need. It is not the business of any public official, including the Electoral Commission, to be telling us how screening should be done on social media. They got to focus on the job, which is making sure that they put in place processes that will elicit the confidence of the public when it comes to delivery and unbiased election. And let me add this. The key to addressing the anxieties of all stakeholders is transparency. My brother, in 2012 election petition, it came out clear that some pink sheets were in quadruplets, some were double. And it also so happened that there were issues with what? The pink sheets. Now, even the courts in their recommendations said that going forward, they should make sure that some of the processes become more transparent. Nana, how come that the parties don't even know how the pink sheet was going to look like when it comes out? How come when the EC issues the statement to explain why somebody has serial number, you know what they said? They said some were backup pink sheets, assuming those allotted to police stations fail.
And that they ran out.
Yes,
or and there's an additional.
Exactly. And that they put the word replacement on it. My brother, how can you be saying this in this age in Ghana, where we've traveled a long way from opaque ballot boxes to a place where we have serial numbers, identify each pink sheet as being very unique and cannot be changed? And in the court, we realized that even what we assumed was unique, some were double. And people have their suspicions that they were maybe used as tools for changing the results. Let's even go with what the court said, that the results were okay. My brother, how come? You know what the commission is saying now? They are saying now each document has a particular code specific to a polling station. Yeah. What if I have a printing press? We get the code, even in the morning, and we print similar colors, same stuff. We should use the serial numbers. A serial number will be captured in the database as being unique to a particular place. Even the reserved pin sheets. Nana, can they have serial numbers? They can't have serial numbers. But in your system...
But EC said the numbers will be written. Is that not what EC said?
No, the EC...
The supplementary sheet.
They went to hide under the explanation of replacement. They said, if you don't even see pictures... Because our argument was that when we saw them, they had no serial numbers. And their issue is that they are replacement forms. And I'm saying that even replacement forms can have serial numbers on them. But when you enter your system, you know anytime you see this serial number, it is a replacement form. So my brother, it all comes to transparency. If the Electoral Commission wants Ghanaians to stop making the noise, they should also start being transparent as much as possible. And once anxieties are allayed, or how do you call it, addressed, we are all, look, the commission is the only thing we have. I tell people, we have to manage with this commission. But it does not also mean that you keep quiet on everything they do. People say, oh, we should all cooperate with the Electoral Commission. Cooperation is a meal. It involves a lot of things. It comes with commendations, criticisms, recommendations, petitions, all are a complete meal. They should not always expect that everybody comes saying that you are on top, you are on top. Look, we don't hate them. Nobody dislikes the commission. We only want them to go and do a good job. And criticism is very essential in making an institution work.
Let's go to the Ghanaian Times this morning. The story captured on the front page, soldiers don't get involved in political violence. On page 4, the story says that officers and men of the armed forces have been asked not to engage in any acts that can mar the forthcoming elections. Now, we're told that the Chief of Staff, Vice Marshal M.T. Nagal, gave the address or advice in Accra when he inaugurated a junior Ranksy mess and outdoored new instruments for the Silver Wings Dance Band of the Ghana Air Force. Now, according to him, he asked personnel to use the opportunity available to promote and propagate the message of peace before, during, and after the election. Their role, he said, was key to sustaining the democratic dispensation of the country. Air Vice Marshal Nagal said continued to attract a number of people because of the peaceful environment, noting that his outfit and other security agencies would continue to safeguard the country. He asked all other security agencies to be part of the process. We tie that story into the fact that the UK embassy is asking vigilantes to stay away from the election, ask political parties to ensure that vigilante groups in their parties do not cause mayhem on election day. Dr. Appa, soldiers asked to stay away from elections, and particularly for the fact that security agencies are key to maintaining a peaceful, credible elections before and even after. Now, what should be the key role our security agencies should play in ensuring we have a peaceful process?
Security agencies' work is already spelled out, we know. They're part of the special voters, after which DS is to ensure that there is tranquility at every polling station, as we do on election day. The ballot boxes are protected, counting, everything is done right, and that's all that they do to provide security. I believe in our security forces in Ghana, who are very professional, and I believe none of them would put himself in such a mess. No two ways about that. It's a good warning, but I believe in the security systems. But you know something? Realistically, what I'm looking at is, that is why we should even encourage this transparency thing. People are getting, like what Martin Amidu is doing recently. Somebody called Mr. Saka went to court. Salia went to court. People have been going to court. The citizenry are now getting interested in the whole processes of our elections. I mean, look at what has happened since the last month, 2 months. SEU, what do you call it? The EC in court here and there, losing some, winning some, getting some, most of them losing and everything. It is good for this thing. You know, it gives the security a lesser job to do. When the court declares this, Ghanaians accept. And then we know the court has declared, and we move on. The court says, ensure this. It is ensured. It is done. Nobody has a problem. And you see, when we begin to work that way, it allows the security to do their job without any headache. So the reality is, it is a citizenry, really. And that is why I'm coming back to what the UK envoy is saying. I remember within this year, the IGP, when he was given the nod, the first warning was to disband any vigilante group in political parties. As of today, I think they have even come up better than they were. And I remember,
and they're in the various political parties.
Various political parties everywhere. And what do they say? Some may say we don't believe in the police or something to provide the needed security. And you know, it comes back to everything. let me give an example of recent happenings where there were some little bit of clashes before Nanado's residence and everything. It fuels that perception that the police, are you really ready? Like, this is Nima police station, this is Nanado's residence, and couldn't you have done anything? Couldn't something have done? I mean, couldn't we have even looked into the situations and come up with something? So then when that happens, then for us to be able to protect our own, then let's start with some boys around who can help us do those things, which is not good in the first place. It's not good. From the Azoka boys to the MPP groups, something invisible forces. There is there is nothing in there. We get nothing out of it. They just, in fact, because they are not professionals, one thing, because they are not professionally trained, they can be dangerous. They do things by intuition, by something that just pushes them, they begin to act. But the professional policeman, the professional army person will take his time and know how to handle the situations. And that is where the headache is coming from. So I think the police, as we all saying, it all boils down to confidence in the system. If people believe in the system, they will not go coming out with their own private securities, vigilantes, and everything. But when the people begin to realize that, no, there's something really fishy, we don't get whatever we need, things are not going the way we want, then they may be forced in a way to start doing all these things. And this is where the issue is. Real soldiers, real policemen, we believe in them. They will go and vote specially. They will come out, they will police the ballots and everything. But the real issue is with the vigilante groups in the political parties who may be a problem.
Dr. Kuboy, so when parties don't believe in the security forces, then we have a problem. Yeah. Particularly your party is said to have said that the police seem to be working for a particular political party.
You know, you see, the parties, the political parties, are stakeholders. They are like teams going to a football match. Each team wants to win. And that's why we have rules of the game. And sometimes some players break the rules, and who sanctions them or who steps them? The referee. Now, what led to the creation of some of these vigilantes? Why did we have Azoka boys? Why the invisible? Because in the past, when let's say we had the MPP in government, they also felt that maybe the police was not being fair to them. You understand? This is the only country we have. We all want peace. Now, I am a parliamentary candidate for Lejokuku. My brother, if I'm with two of my supporters or my party people, and another guy, a guy from another party, comes to misbehave or to hurt one of my guys, luckily in the presence of a policeman who looks impotent and wouldn't act, what do you think goes through my mind? You understand? The most peaceful man sometimes is forced to purchase a gun because he's been threatened or shot several times and nobody comes to his aid. I am for peace. Please, this country should not be deceived. Every person is for peace. But when you put a man in a situation where he feels he's being treated unfairly all the time, and the one giving the powers to come to his aid wouldn't do much to help him, he starts thinking of how to protect himself or herself. If you don't want people to be encouraged to get personal security or all that, do your job, be professionally right, not politically correct. My brother, we've had instances in this country where even neutral people, and I say it all the time, I want some of you to talk more in this country. When the MPP is at fault, be bold and say it. That as for this, it cannot be allowed. It's a recipe for chaos in the future. Like what happened in front of Nanedu's house. You want to go on a march in Accra, you couldn't find anywhere than right at the gate of the opposition leader. With a history of skirmishes sometimes when these two parties meet, and you have thousands of people amassing in front of the opposition leader's house. And right opposite you have the police. Even Prez Mahama, when he spoke, not even as in undermining him, but he who you assume will speak for his people said that he blames the police. Why? Because he saw that this situation was, look, my brother, if they had thrown anything in the house and it had touched any person, and not do anybody, and he had fallen to the ground, something had happened, what do you think would have happened in this country? Where I received news that Nanado's house was just attacked and the man is on the ground. My brother, there are people who are not as sane as some of us. They will be finding for the next opposition or government member to go and harm. And that is where chaos starts. So I am for peace. MPP is for peace. We are only begging the police. They should be professionally right, not politically correct. At least in these few weeks that we are going into, they should put Ghana first. If MPP is wrong, look, let me give one last example. Recently at Zoom, we had people from from a particular party. Don't let me even, I don't want to mention names, so I will not politicize it that much. We had individuals who came with sticks, machetes. They vandalized the office of during the limited registration at Suhum, and up to, as we speak, the police couldn't effect any arrest, and people were going like, what is happening? They run into a public office, stop the process, chase officials, issue officials out, and they are walking on the streets. If impunity becomes widespread, peace becomes endangered.
Let's wrap up on this. What about the concern of people that parties, when in opposition, see everything wrong with the police?
My brother, you see, you can't blame the party. Sometimes the source of our woes is in the very constitution that we are running. Look, you have an Inspector General of Police who is not appointed by an independent commission, but appointed at the discretion of the president. We are human beings. I'm a medical doctor, the subconscious. If you make me come here as the boss in this outfit, my brother, when I'm dealing with you, there is a subconscious effect where I'm very careful to make sure that I don't harm your senses. So we have to look at the very foundation of our constitution. The IGP is appointed by the sitting president. My brother, sometimes when he wants to be professional, that's why a party member, whether NDC or MPP, can misbehave in front of a policeman when they are in power, because he knows that at the very top, the one who was appointed can be called by his appointer. So we have these headaches or hurdles or bottlenecks around our professionals, but we can only plead with them to be bold. It's not easy. When the one who appointed you, you have to take a decision that goes right against him. But they should put Ghana first, and we can have peace in this country.
Mr. Apple, a quick word.
I think that the whole thing boils back to how the constitution has been done. I'm looking forward to somebody coming to say that these things must stop somewhere,
must change somewhere.
And then we change the situation somewhere, which will make people work professionally. And Ghana, as he said, will be first in everything.
I'm grateful. Mr. Apple is a lecturer at the Central University. Kwame Apple is his full name, Central University lecturer. Good morning again, and thanks so much for your time with us. And wish you a great weekend. And Dr. Okuboy is the Lejokuku NPP aspiring member of parliament for that constituency. Great to have you two this morning. Wish you a great weekend too. We'll be there in Teshin this weekend.